Hello, everyone. Welcome back to ZT Fully Loaded. This is one of our new segments, as promised on the channel, the world of sports, which is going to be a weekly video, just recapping what we've seen the world, the day of sports. Okay, guys. Personally, the reason I wanted to start this now is because October, as you guys can see up on the screen, is the best month for sports, in my opinion. You have pretty much everything. You have MLB playoffs, as you guys can see in the background. October baseball is here. That has got it well underway. You have the NBA season about to kick off as well, and just the league, the right before the season starts, trades, free agency, things of that nature. NFL is fully underway. We're now entering week 5 as we sit here on October 3rd. And then we have college football also well underway into conference play. Each of the teams have played 5 to 6 games, depending on if they started in week 0. We have hockey season about to start up on October 10th. We have college basketball scrimmages as well as college basketball getting ready to start up in the first weeks of November. And then we have the Ryder Cup recap. Ryder Cup it left a lot to be desired. Either way, the emotion always gets to you. And I'm already excited for a couple years from now in New York. So we'll talk a little bit about that, guys. Okay. So again, October, I personally think is the best month for sports. And I thought there would be no better time than right now to go ahead and launch a weekly news segment about what is going on in sports. What have we seen over the past week? What have we seen over the past day? And go ahead and do some previews, some recaps, and look forward to the next week. Okay, guys? This will vary. I'm going to try to be as consistent as possible, to be honest. I want to try to do this on Sundays. It is quite difficult to do so, but I'm going to try to stick to Sundays. If I can't hit Sundays, guys, it's more likely going to be Wednesdays, okay? So it's going to be Sunday or Wednesday. I'll be announcing that on the platforms, but I'm going to probably shoot for Sundays during like the Sunday night football game, be looking at something like that. All right, guys? So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go in this order again. MLB playoffs. So we're going to go through the bracket breakdown. As you see, we have 2 games right behind us right now. We have the Brewers and Diamondbacks, as well as the Phillies and Marlins, both in the late innings. We have NBA season, this league, and we'll talk about why I put that. NFL Week 5 preview, college football, hockey season, college basketball scrimmages, as well as the Ryder Cup recap, guys. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. With that being said, our first topic will be our MLB playoff bracket, guys. There is no better time in baseball than October baseball, in my complete honest opinion. October baseball just is everything and anything you want. There is drama. There is hectic fan bases. As you see behind me, the Phillies have one of the best, and that's why I think their home field advantage will take them very far. Houston, I've witnessed it firsthand. It gets raucous in there. Seeing teams that haven't been in there for a while, like the Rangers, like the Orioles, Diamondbacks, Marlins. It's exciting to see for them. And then we have our overwhelming favorites, the Braves. We have the Dodgers, who are a little bit depleted. Of course, you have your Astros returning as usual. Your Rays that are in there pretty much year in and year out, and of course your Twins, but who have not had success year in and year out. So exciting to break this down. Exciting time to be alive. Exciting time for all baseball fans, guys. So let's go ahead and break it down. We'll start from the top left with our American League. Break down all of our American League and then our NL. These are going to be my predictions. I'm not going to formally post them. Why? Because I don't feel necessarily confident in all of the picks. But yeah, let's go ahead and go through. I'm going to be turning around, guys. It's the last few innings. We have the Brewers and the Diamondbacks at the top of the 9th, and then we have the Phillies and Marlins. I want to say they're in the 7th or the 8th. Diamondbacks are up by 1, and then the Brewers are up, or the Phillies are up by 2 in the other game. But with that being said, for the American League, guys, in this wild card round, we have the 3rd seed, the Twins, taking on the Blue Jays, the 6th seed. Me personally, I'm going to go ahead and side with the Blue Jays, guys. And even though they got started off on a rough start today, and it's just their offense to this year, everybody thought it's going to be their offense that carries them throughout. And I was right there with everybody. When you have Vlad Guerrero, when you have Bo Bichette, when you have George Springer, Matt Chapman, like there is so many weapons in that lineup up and down. Austin Kirk, and they're just not able to come through. It's I don't know, depressing. And seeing them in that 6th seed is, at the end of the day, they made it. It was a highly competitive AL side of the bracket to be able to get into it. Came down to the very last week. But at the end of the day, I never foresaw the Blue Jays having to rely on their rotation, especially when Alex Manoah just, completely dropped off the face of the earth. I didn't think the Blue Jays rotation would be the one to carry him into the playoffs, and that's exactly what happened. But then you have the Twins, who were there, the AL, so the Central Division winner. And the Twins also don't have like a depleted lineup. They're not the greatest, and that's why I'm picking the Blue Jays on this one. And then their history in the playoffs, guys. And I know and as a Yankee fan, I can tell you, it's attributed a lot to the strength of the Yankees teams that they faced. I mean, I think it's 18 games, guys. 18 straight playoff losses, guys. I mean, I'm a Texas fan. I'm a Yankee fan. I'm a Cowboys fan, and I've had a lot of heartbreaks. But man, to be able to see your team go in 18 times and lose 18 times in a row in the playoffs, that's just heartbreaking. And I mean, there's been games that they're up, guys, and that like the one that rings the bell is when they're up 3-0 at New York, and Didi Gregorius hits. They go up 3-0 in the first inning, and then Didi Gregorius goes up and hits a 3-run home run in the next half inning to go ahead and tie it up. And then it was just, I mean, so long from there. It is, I mean, mind blowing to see their failures in and throughout this entire playoff run over the last few years. And I think this continues, guys, to be honest. And the reason why is I'm not a fan of their pitching staff, to be completely honest. When you have Sonny Gray as your ace, and I know he's in the Cy Young conversations, I think it's going to be Garrett Cole's award. Aside of my bias, at the end of the day, I do think Garrett Cole just had the better season than anybody else in the AL. When you have Sonny Gray, and we've seen Sonny Gray in New York, when we've seen Sonny Gray in the bright lights, he just doesn't perform. And when we're talking about the Twin struggles and you have that monkey on your back, and they're going to be thinking about it. It might not be everybody that's been on that team for all these years. It's still going to be on their minds. It's still going to be on that city's minds. It's always going to be a tense feeling trying to shut out a series or trying to make sure that you're not eliminating. Your back's always going to be against the wall. That's just not a good mindset to go into a series when you do have dangerous hitters, when you do have a good rotation in the Blue Jays. I know the Blue Jays really didn't pull through today. They had the same struggles that they had all year. They lost 3-1. But when Sonny Gray gets on the mound, I see the Blue Jays rocking him, and I see the Blue Jays being able to close out this series, guys. So I know they're down 1-0. They need to win 2 in a row. I'm still taking the Blue Jays here. Then on the other wild card matchup, you have the Rangers and Rays. I'm really split on this one, guys. Like it is hard for me to say which way it's going to go, one way or the other, to be completely honest with you. It's just such a tight series, to be completely honest. Rangers they both started off extremely hot, just effective offenses. You had the Rangers, I mean, being unbeatable at home. You had the Rays that started off, 11-0, but both faced injuries, both faced, I mean, turmoil in their own respective rights. The Rangers couldn't close out a game to save their lives for what it seemed like the last month and a half. If they did, they'd be the number 2 seed, not the Astros. That was something hard to see, to be honest. Like night in and night out, it just seemed like another blown save. 3 runs let up in the 7th, 4 runs let up in the 8th. It was just hard to see, to be completely honest. But the one good thing coming in is that their offense got back on track, and you saw that a little bit of today. Of course, the Rays did help them quite a bit. I think the Rays had 3 or 4 errors. It was some of the most poorest fielding I've ever seen. Tyler Glasnow did not get helped out at all, and then he even had a wild pitch all on his own as well. So it was a poor defensive game and an offensive game for the Rays. And then that offense for the Rays, again, they started off 11-0. A whole bunch of people were putting in their futures. That number went down really extremely low for them. And then injury after injury for them. I think they've used up 53 different players on their starting roster throughout this year. That's a high number, especially for a team that was competing for a division title. And then on top of that, have had their own locker room turmoil. And I'm not going to get into the details, but Wander Franco all on his own is a huge distraction. So it's a huge shout out to the Rays for even being there. But I want to say, I mean, the Rangers have the 1-0 lead. But man, that bullpen just scares you guys. It's scary every time out there. It's a tense moment. But if Chapman can get it going, guys, I think those last 2 guys are a huge boost to the Rangers. And I'm gonna go ahead and take the Rangers lineup. Why? Because they can score at a more efficient and effective rate than the Rays. And at the end of the day, they're already up 1-0. So that's why I'm gonna take the Rangers here. Then you have the matchup between Blue Jays and Astros, Orioles and Rangers. I think the top 2 seeds advance, to be completely honest with you guys. I already told you guys the weaknesses on the Blue Jays half. You have the experience. You have the Astros getting healthier. Jordan Alvarez is finally back. He got some experience down the stretch. Jose Altuve was in and out of the lineup constantly. Justin Verlander looks like he's coming back into form, and he's a horse in the playoffs. I know he's getting older. I don't see many years left, if any, for him. But when you're in the playoffs, it's just that added motivation, it's that added energy, and you're going to start seeing his fastball climb again. And I think that's going to be enough in the rotation to take down the Blue Jays. The Orioles were outstanding, and the Orioles are a fun team to see because they're what people were calling the comeback kids. They're never out of a ball game, guys. Constantly, week in and week out, day by day. If they were down in a game, watching their games, you might as well place a live bet because they were going to come back. And they weren't doing it by simply just doing home runs. They weren't doing it by shutting out teams all the time. Then they just put hits together and they run the bases very well. They go first to third. They steal bases. They're quick on the run. They're quick on hit and runs. It's a beautiful game to see, guys. They play baseball the way it was meant to be played. I could see them winning a small ball game as well as a home run derby game. I could see them also playing a shutout game. They have advantages everywhere. I know the injury to their closer, I think it's Bautista, hurts them quite a bit, guys. If not, they'd be an overwhelming favorite in the AL. But at the end of the day, I still like them to advance and face Houston in the ALCS. Now, this one's going to be straight homer pick just because I hate the Astros. I do think they never got the punishment they deserved, and I don't want to see them in a World Series. Give me the Orioles over the Astros. I do think the rotations pretty much match up at this point. The one thing that worries me is the experience, but at the end of the day, I do think the home crowds cancel out one another. Camden Yards has been rocking since they've been in contention. It's going to be the same way in the playoffs, especially in an ALCS. I do think Baltimore has the nerve. Baltimore does have the cold-bloodedness in their lineup, and they've shown it all year to be able to go on the road and give Houston a challenge. And I do think that's a challenge going to be enough. So give me Baltimore in the World Series, guys. Every other year or so, you do get this run where a team like Baltimore, a team like the Rays, end up in the World Series. And I think that's this year, instead of having one of your blue bloods like New York, like Boston, like Houston, ending up in the World Series. I do think it's one of those years that you had somebody that really wasn't on the map, might be a year or two ahead, that ends up in the World Series, and I think that's the year for the Orioles this year. Then we have the Diamondbacks and Brewers, which you see behind us right now. It's 3-2, or it's 6-3 now. Top of the ninth, 2 outs. We have a man on second for the Diamondbacks. So they're 3 outs away of taking a 1-0 lead. So Diamondbacks as a 6th seed. I honestly think they end up closing it out, guys, because of the big blow that they just had. Because the Brewers had at the beginning, I liked what the Brewers gonna have coming in, and I thought this was gonna be Brewers series to win, and then a sneaky good team to be able to go into LA. At the end of the day, Brandon Woodruff's injury looms very large, guys. He gave them a huge boost, and nobody was really talking about the Brewers, guys, in the Central. I mean, it was the Cubs, it was the Reds, even at the beginning of the season, it was the Pirates for a little while, like the first few weeks. But then the Brewers came out of nowhere. And why? It was a return of Brandon Woodruff, and then for him to be announced out just 2 days or a day before the wild card series, that's a huge, huge blow because of the lift that he gave that entire team, because of the boost that he gives that rotation, and they don't have to rely on their bullpen as much, and they don't have as great of an offense to speak of as some of these other teams. So they do rely a lot on their pitching. So having an ace be rolled out is quite a significant blow. And especially like tonight that you had Corbin Burnes not even go the distance that you thought he would, went the shortest distance of his entire season tonight. And they've used the bullpen quite a bit. Both teams have. But even then, looking forward, you have Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly for the Diamondbacks, 2 aces that can go long distances into these next 2 games if needed, compared to the Brewers, who really don't have any. So I'm taking the Diamondbacks to go ahead and close this out. I love Corbin Carroll. Love watching him play. Marte has been phenomenal to watch as well. They have some low key bats, guys. They're a team that deserves to be in the playoffs. Go how hard they play, how much hustle they have, and they have 2 horses to be able to get them through these games. And we'll talk about that a little bit against the Dodgers. Then we have the Marlins at Phillies. I'm not going to waste much time. I'd rather talk about the Phillies against the Braves. That's who I'm picking to win this series, guys. The Phillies, just in home field advantage alone, I think take advantage of this, and they beat the Marlins. Phillies home crowd is absolutely fantastic. We know how Philly supports their teams. We saw their run last year. But the lineup that they have, it didn't change much. If not, it only got better. I know Rhys Hoskins isn't there right now. That's a huge blow. At the end of the day, Real Muto, Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, who finally turned it on in the second half of the season, Kyle Schwarber, who, does have strikeouts. At the end of the day, he also gets his walks. He gets his runs. He gets his RBIs, and you can't complain much about Kyle Schwarber there. And then they have 2 horses as well as Aaron Nola. Zach Wheeler pitched phenomenally tonight. Now they're up 4-1, and you see the crowd going raucous. They're just an amazing team to watch, guys, and I do think that's too much for the Marlins to handle. I just don't think the Marlins are at this level right now, guys. They have a lot of up and coming talent. They do have quite a bit of pitching talent. I just don't think they're at the level of the Phillies. So give me the Phillies. Now, breaking down Phillies versus Braves, this one's an exciting series. I'm looking forward to it, guys, and that's why I'm really hoping for it. I do think it's kind of like a split every time there's a home game, to be honest. Both have raucous crowds. And the Phillies honestly have the experience. The Phillies have been here to be able to go to Atlanta and pull off an upset. As my upset pick is, I'm going to take the Phillies. And why? Because Atlanta, towards the end of the year, they put up numbers, guys, and I'll probably be taking every over possible throughout this throughout this run against the Braves and the Phillies. And I probably sound really dumb, and I might look dumb to a lot of you guys for picking the Phillies over the Braves. The Braves bullpen, the Braves starting rotation really suffered down the stretch. There was multiple games that they were down 4-0 early, 6-0 early. And I'm sorry, but when you're playing at Philly, you're not going to be able to come back from that. I don't care how good your lineup is. I don't care if you have the MLB home run leader. I don't care if you have um, Ronald Acuna, who's gone, what was it, 40 for 40. It's impossible, guys. I'm sorry. That's just too much of a crowd, too much pressure, and I'm just going to go ahead and take the Phillies at that point in time. So give me the Phillies as the upset pick of my bracket. Then we have the Dodgers at Diamondbacks. This one is going to be a lot closer than people expect as well, especially if the Diamondbacks can close this out in two. Why? That allows them to start with either Zach Gallen or Merrill Kelly in game one against Clayton Kershaw. After Clayton Kershaw, this Dodgers pitching staff is depleted as well, guys. Dodgers have come in and they could score just as much as the Braves. I understand that. It's just as much as the Phillies. I understand that. But their pitching has significantly been reduced because of injuries as well. And it's going to be tough to see them, honestly, guys. If they have to play the the Phillies or Braves, give me either other team against these Dodgers. Yes, they have Mookie Betts. Yes, they have Freddie Freeman. They have Max Muncy. I understand that. They have hitting capability. That's not something I'm sleeping on. At the end of the day, in October, you do need pitching. And the way LA has looked, the way Atlanta has looked towards the end of the year, the injuries that they both have, it doesn't set up well for them. And I'm going to go ahead and take some upsets here. I'm taking the Diamondbacks to advance as well. So give me Philly and the Diamondbacks, both wild card round teams. I don't think the top two teams make it out, guys. It sounds ridiculous, and I might be wrong, guys, but at the end of the day, I'm telling you, look out for this pitching, guys. It is something to be worried about. There is going to be a lot of overs. Things are going to change in a matter of seconds because of a major home run, things of that nature. It's just something scary, guys, to be completely honest, to be betting on. And I do think there's flaws in both rotations. I do think there's flaws in both bullpens, and they rely heavily on their offenses. We saw that all throughout the year for Atlanta. They had a historic offense. I'm not taking away any credit from them there. At the end of the day, I don't think that's going to be enough when we're talking about October baseball. We know that you need a closer. We know that you need dominant horses that we've seen Houston have throughout these years. So I'm going to rely on the teams that do have horses at this point in time and who have been turning it on, like the Phillies and like the Diamondbacks, who have been in playoff mode for quite a while. And then in that one, guys, I'm gonna take the Phillies again. I do think this is gonna be one of the Phillies' years. They've fallen short. We saw them last year, but I love their crowd. I still love their lineup, and I love the two horses that they have, and then the rest of their pitching stuff as well. The back end of their bullpen can suffer at times, which is a little bit scary. At the end of the day, I do like what Trey Turner's doing. I do think Bryce Harper shows up just as much as he showed up last year. Alex Bohm showed up tonight as well. You have Castellanos, you have JT Realmuto, you have Kyle Schwarber. I think that's just too much, guys, for the Diamondbacks, who do rely on two or three hitters and then on their pitching. And when we're talking about going 3 rounds deep after starting in the first round, that might suffer a little bit as well. So give me the Phillies. And then we're doing Phillies and Orioles. I'm going to take the Phillies, guys. Again, I do think the Orioles, yes, like I said, I think it's going to be one of those years that we have one of these price teams make it into the World Series, but it seems like every time that happens, and we've seen it with the Rays before, we've seen it with the Rangers back in the day when they faced the Cardinals. There is teams that make it there, but it's not quite their time, and you start seeing their flaws come out, whether it's a fielding error with one out left, whether it's just pitching dying out and being tired. You just never know. And actually, update, Diamondbacks just closed it out. So Diamondbacks are up 1-0. They win 6-3, guys. Okay. So they're up 1-0 in this series right here against the Brewers. So I'm going to go ahead and take Phillies as my World Series champions this year. So that is for baseball, guys, and you can see some of the schedule here. So Orioles and Astros have the bye. Dodgers and Braves have the bye. I think both of these teams in the NL need it. Hopefully, they can get a little bit healthier. Hopefully, their pitching staffs can come together, guys, because they do need that pitching staff. I will say the Braves are probably in better shape. Anybody that faces the Dodgers probably has a better chance because the Braves do have excellent starters, guys. They just haven't been as great, and they've been lacking a lot of what you would want to see. Whether it's from Strider, whether it's from Bryce Elder. Bryce Elder was just getting rocked at the end of the year. There was just a lot left to be wanted. I can easily see them winning the World Series. There's a reason that they're the heavy favorite. They have an amazing offense. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I do think that ugly pitching that we saw towards the end of the year is going to show its rear ugly head against these Phillies. All right, guys. So with that being said, let's move on to our next topic. October baseball is beautiful, but NBA season also launching in October, and we just had a huge signing over the weekend, or a trade over the weekend, that resulted in another trade as well. So let's go ahead and break that down real quick. So we can go ahead and let's go standing so we can see all of the teams, guys. So Milwaukee, and this is from last year, so ignore it. Let's see if we can even click this year. No, we can't. So Milwaukee has actually become the favorites to win the title and definitely the favorites to win the East, with the Boston Celtics falling behind them. This is because I'm hoping you guys all saw this news. Damian Lillard being traded to the Bucks. I personally like the trade for the Bucks, but I will say I don't think they were the winners of the trade overall. Why do I like the trade for the Bucks? At the end of the day, we've seen it year in and year out. Yes, they were able to win a title, but the last couple of years, we've been seeing them struggle in late game situations. In the playoffs, we've been seeing them struggle when they go on cold streaks and they're not able to come back because they don't have somebody to hit a three-pointer. They don't have somebody at the end to be able to hold the ball and take confident free throws. Yes, Chris Middleton is a shooter. At the end of the day, he can't create his own shots, and I still firmly believe that. I know he's been an all-star. He's just not the best at creating his own shots. That does come off a lot of decoys from his main man, Giannis. And at the end of the day, Giannis is a great defender. We all know what he can do in the post. We all know what he lacks on the outside, guys. And that's not something that's going against him. I definitely do think he's a top 3 player in the NBA at any point in time. At the end of the day, I apologize. I want to see what was going on. At the end of the day, I think they were lacking this piece. And I know they're giving up something on defense by letting go of Drew Holiday. I love adding Damian Lillard. We know what Dame time is all about. We know how cold he goes, how cold-blooded he becomes at the end of the game. They need somebody like that that is not afraid to take the last shot, that's not afraid to go ahead and dribble out a ball, bring it up court. And at the end of the day, he works just as hard. He fits into that culture. I know it's not culture like Miami, but he fits into that culture. It works just as hard. Giannis just works just as hard and wants to win just as bad. So I loved the fit for Damian Lillard there. I know he wants it. Spent a lot of time wasted in Portland. I don't think they waste much time here in Milwaukee, guys. I like that trade a lot for Milwaukee. But the team that I think personally won this bet is the Phoenix Suns, guys. The Phoenix Suns last year showed, it showed they did not have the depth to go ahead and contend. Yes, they have the stars. Yes, they had Devin Booker. Yes, they had Kevin Durant. And yes, they had Chris Paul washed. At the end of the day, they didn't have the depth to be able to contend. Even with the Clippers missing players, and I went to one of the playoff games, missing Kawhi, missing PG, whoever else they were missing, and just playing off of Russell Westbrook, were competing with the Suns. Why? Because once that bench came in, there was a substantial difference in the level that the Suns were at. DeAndre Ayton just didn't show up, and I'm glad he finally got shipped out. He was just a waste of money, a waste of talent there in Phoenix. Hopefully he tries to do something in his new home. At the end of the day, I love Nurkic more than what I love DeAndre Ayton. He hustles. He's a big man, big presence. And he has nice rebounds. He has some underrated passing skills, if I'm being completely honest. And I do think he's a presence down low for this offense, guys. And it opens up quite a bit for like Devin Booker, who is developing as a point guard. I don't know if he's going to be running point or Bradley Beal. They're two elite, stone cold shooters. And Devin Booker was also playing on the defensive end last year, and I definitely think Bradley Beal buys into it just as much for exactly what I was saying about Damian Lillard. He wasted a lot of time out in Washington. He's not going to be wasting time here, guys. And at the end of the day, Kevin Durant, we've seen him in the Warriors be able to play side to side, both ends of the ball, both ends of the court. And you know who Kevin Durant is, one of the most gifted, if not the most gifted scorer of our generation. So yeah, I love what the Suns did. They added the depth on their bench. They added a better center than what I think they had, and it's arguable. I know it's very arguable um, compared to what people are saying, because Aiden was a talent. He was a former number one overall pick. I don't know. I just like Nurkic more, guys. From a fantasy perspective, from what he contributes to a team, his hustle, um, what he provides to a locker room. You never really hear people talk about him being checked out. To what we saw with DeAndre Aiden, guys. I think he's a better locker room fit. I think he's a better hustler, and I definitely think he offers a lot more in the paint, which was that something was missing with the Phoenix Suns, unless DeAndre Aiden actually wanted to show up for a few games. So I really think the Suns won that trade, and that's why I think the Suns should be the favorite to win the title this year, guys. I know the Nuggets, and I live here in Denver, guys. Nothing against them, um, but they didn't really add much, and they lost a key component in Bruce Brown, guys. And I know it's because Michael Porter. I'm sorry, I was gonna say Michael Carter will. Michael Porter should be coming back and offering a lot to this team. Who really knows what you're gonna be able to get out of him, guys? Year in and year out, that back injury just shows up, and that's the reason why he fell in the draft when he fell. Um, at the end of the day, they have an amazing core. Jamal Murray, I mean, we saw it in the bubble, and then we saw it again last year when he was fully healthy. Playoffs, he just took over, and then you have, I mean, the best center, the best passer in the league right now, and Jokic. I really like the Nuggets. I know they're gonna be a strong contender. They're probably gonna be number one at the end of the season. I just think when it comes down to it, the Suns are gonna have too many weapons in a 7 game series to be able to shut them down, guys. Similar to what we used to see with the Heat. It's just too many weapons all at once compared to the Nuggets that they need two guys to be able to go off and carry a team. You have the Suns that have 3 or 4 guys that are able to carry them, and now have a bench to be able to hold it down when you need that rest for those guys. And remember, in the regular season, it might show a little bit more that they don't have as much depth. In the playoffs, it drops from an 8 man rotation to 7 or 6 men. The benches do become a little bit less meaningful, and I definitely think that plays into the favor of the Suns, who created that depth of 7 to 8 men that they can trust come postseason playoff basketball time. So that is a little bit of a breakdown, guys. I think I'm going to say top 4 seeds. I think the Bucks, Celtics are clear cut top 4 seeds. Miami's going to be up there as well, but they'll fall short in the regular season. Why? Because it's just too much. I love their culture, guys. I love their hustle. That's more for the postseason. To be able to grind that out, guys, through an 82 game series season, it's tough, and that's why you saw them go on some of their slumps. That's why you saw them approach 500. I can see that happening again this year, to where the Cavs still end up here at the top. Um, I don't know. The Knicks, I can see the Knicks still competing up here as well. But at the end, when we're talking about playoff basketball, I'm going to say Bucks, Celtics, Cavaliers, Heat will be your top teams, guys. Bucks, Celtics, Cavaliers, Heat will be your final 4 in the East. Here, I would say it's going to be Denver. I'm going to say it's going to be Philly, sorry. Denver, Phoenix, Lakers. I like the additions that the Lakers made. I'm not a LeBron fan. At the end of the day, I really like the additions that the Lakers made. So I'll take them as a third. And then it sucks saying this, guys, but the Warriors, I don't know really what they did this year, guys, this offseason. Adding Chris Paul, like, was your issue last year really that you didn't have an extra ball handler? Was it really the issue that you didn't have enough leaders? Was it really an issue that you didn't have an older guy on the team? It wasn't. You're already getting older. You already have, I mean, strong personality in Draymond Green to go against somebody that they had rivalries against. And I know, I mean, it's all talk about good things. We saw the Warriors couldn't even get along with somebody of a strong personality like Jordan Poole that was trying to come in from in-house. Imagine somebody from the outside trying to come in. I just don't see it. And we've seen CP being standoffish about not even wanting to play the bench, which I think would be the best alternative for them. I just don't see it, guys. I don't see the Warriors competing. I think they've really missed out on what they should have done this offseason and trying to get a little bit younger and develop players. And that's just unfortunate to see. The second baseball game just went final. Philly beats Miami 4-1, so Philly is now up 1-0 in that series. So I'm gonna go ahead and take probably Memphis, guys. I want to believe in Sacramento, but I'm probably gonna take Memphis. So my top 4 at the end would be Denver, Phoenix, Lakers, Memphis. Hopefully the Clippers, their players decide to finally play for them. It's just unfortunate for them that they have Paul George and Kawhi who just refuse to play basketball, to be completely honest. And then we want to hear about Paris 2024 or whatever we were talking about. How about you just play for your own teams first? So yeah, it's exciting to hear that all of our big players are all of a sudden going to play for Team USA. After seeing the performance that we kind of was lackluster in the roster was a little bit luster this time around. It's exciting to hear that we're gonna have many more players. At the end of the day, let's focus on basketball. Now we're having the league try to put in rules where you can't rest on certain days because how many times you are resting. And that's all credit to the generation of LeBron, to be completely honest with you, and Greg Popovich. And that's where I stand on that argument. And it just sucks. So at the end of the day, before you guys start talking about Paris, LeBron, before you start talking about Paris, Kawhi, let's actually focus on playing games for your fans and for your teams. But yeah, so that's basketball news, guys. It should be starting up soon. I'm very excited for basketball. I love basketball. Night in and night out, being able to watch that, it's fun to watch, guys. NFL Week 5, guys. So we NFL fully is in full swing, guys. So let's go ahead and go through these top 32 teams that the NFL listed. I'll see if I agree with them. San Francisco at number 1. I do agree with guys on their defense still improving week by week. We know that we had some holdouts, we had some injuries. At the end of the day, they're improving. I don't think they've really played anybody also, uh, which is a little bit of a difficulty for them to be able to fully rate them. At the end of the day, Brock Purdy has looked awesome from his return. No real lingering issue from his elbow. So that's exciting to see. Christian McCaffrey is an absolute beast. And like I said, they're just improving. Ayuk's all of a sudden coming of age to where I think he's even taking over the number 1 wide receiver from Debo and from George Kittle. So they have the weapons there in San Francisco. And you know that defense is always going to be there with great coaching. You have Philly at number 2. I don't know if I agree with that, guys. I do like some AFC teams here more than that. Philly has struggled in a few games this year to start off, and we saw that just this past week with the Commanders. So I do think Philly should be a little bit below this. And at the end of the day, the same issue that they had last year with Jalen Hurts in close games, suffering in his accuracy. You've seen it a couple times this season. At the end of the game, and this is an image I'll never get out of my head. That Hail Mary that's supposed to go 60 yards and goes 30 at the end of the Super Bowl. I know their chances were slim to none at that point in time either way. That image will never get out of my head about what type of passer he is and what his ceiling is. It's going to be when you're expecting 60 and you only get 30 from him. Buffalo and Kansas City, I do think they're still the cream of the crop in the AFC, guys. I know there was talks about Jacksonville coming in and taking over. They just shown that they're not the team that we thought they were going to be. Still have a lot to prove on defense. Their offense has gone off to an extremely slow start. Calvin Ridley has become irrelevant since week 1. Travis Etienne is nowhere near the pace that his coach and him were talking about in preseason. It's just unfortunate to see there. And man, oh man, what is going on with Cincinnati? I kind of wish now that Joe Burrow would have taken Jamar Chase's advice and sat out until week 3 or week 4, because he does not look healthy. He's not able to throw the ball down the field. You're starting to hear frustrations from Jamar Chase. T. Higgins now has broken ribs, saying he's not going to miss much time. I do think he is going to miss time, and just questionable play callings, and then even a team that looked like they were suffering in the Titans, and I know they're Titans and they're going to be scrappy, and we've seen that from after years from Mike Vrabel's teams. At the end of the day, they've been letting up yards, they've been letting up passing yards, they've been letting up touchdowns, and you couldn't muster up a single touchdown. It was sad to see, guys. And I just don't think this is going to be the year for the Bengals. I definitely think it was a wrong coaching decision. It was a wrong decision to allow the player to make the decision there. And I understand he's a franchise quarterback. He's just not healthy enough, and right now he's a detriment to the team. When he could have been a positive, and I feel like this injury might linger all year, guys. And I just don't think it's something they bounce back from, especially in a division that's going to be extremely tight with the Ravens and with the Browns up there, and we've seen them go into battle. I definitely think they're 2 better teams than the Bengals are right now. But yeah, I agree with Buffalo and Chiefs up here. The thing that worries me, man, is the Chiefs do not have anything on offense. I love Patrick Mahomes. I'm one of his biggest fans. I know he can do it with anything, like what we've seen with Tom Brady, what we saw with Peyton Manning. At the end of the day, he needs something, guys, and we cannot say, "Oh, well, Tom Brady." At the end of the day, Tom Brady always had a Danny Amendola. He always had a Rob Gronkowski. He always had Julian Edelman. He had Randy Moss, for crying out loud, which is arguably one of the best wide receivers, and not the best wide receiver of all time. So let's not go into that argument. He's had wide receivers, and I get it. Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill too, and he still has Travis Kelce. At the end of the day, we saw in week 1 how much of a struggle it is. We saw this past week when they start taking away Travis Kelce, how much of a struggle it is. He doesn't even have Juju Smith-Schuster, who isn't a great wide receiver. He was at least able to hold down the middle of the field. Instead, we have Tony letting balls bounce off his hands, looking like he never played football once in his life to be able to track a ball. Sky Moore showing up week to week. I really like Rashid Rice. Hopefully he matriculates into something. But man, do they need something going. And then of course on their defense, I think they're more of a bend do not break style instead of causing turnovers, instead of getting sacks. And maybe that comes now that Chris Jones is fully getting into swings. He had a sack this past week. I just think there's a lot left to be hoping for. That right now, I'd give the upper hand to the Bills. Unfortunately, love the Chiefs, love Mahomes. I definitely think I'm going to give the upper hand to the Bills here. Dallas, we have a Week 5 showdown. Dallas and San Francisco. I think that's going to say a lot about these teams. Yes, I know it's early and it might be an overreaction. At the end of the day, we saw the Cowboys get absolutely run over down the middle, just like they did last year. And what their biggest weakness was able to stop the run when they throw it right down your throat. That's what the 49ers do. That's what the Arizona Cardinals did. That's what Philadelphia Eagles do. So what are the Cowboys going to do? I do think they come out strong. I do think they are going to be motivated. It was an embarrassing loss. It was an embarrassing way for Ezekiel Elliott to end his career with the Cowboys. It was an embarrassing just overall defeat. It just once again proved that Dak Prescott isn't the guy, and I'm always going to believe Dak Prescott isn't the guy. It was a mistake to sign him to that big of a contract, and it's just unfortunate that they did because it's going to hold them back until that contract runs out, to be completely honest. And that's always going to be my opinion on the Cowboys, so I'm not going to waste much more time there. Then you have the Dolphins, and I'm going to summarize these guys because these are my top 6. I love the Dolphins guys. At the end of the day, I just don't think they play the style of football to win in the playoffs. At the end of the day, I know what the Chiefs have done. At the end of the day, when the Chiefs won, they still had huge defensive plays. We saw firsthand that the Miami Dolphins can get smacked in the mouth and not respond. And even then, their defense might get smacked, and hopefully your offense keeps you in the game. We saw the offense get shut down as well. I know Jalen Waddle's still recovering. He's going to be improved. At the end of the day, they showed no signs of life in that second half. It was fumble after fumble, mistake after mistake, just absolutely getting run over by the Buffalo Bills, who have the experience and who have been there. And I think really took a big step in shutting out these Dolphins in the second half. I really like the Lions guys. I know they had a slip up in week 2 when they were supposed to open up their stadium and win that game. At the end of the day, they looked awesome against the Chiefs. They looked awesome last week. And it's unfortunate that Jahmyr Gibbs isn't getting the run that he did. But the way they're using David Montgomery is the same way I couldn't believe that they weren't using him in Chicago. It was aggravating for them not to use David Montgomery in Chicago when he is a dynamic back, guys. He's not just all power. He does have speed. He does have agility, and he's showing it now in Detroit. He's showing his way to be able to get into the end zone. He can catch balls. He can pass block. He's a full running back, and when you have weapons on the outside, like Reynolds, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a very underrated wide receiver still to this day, in my opinion, and you have somebody that's able to manage a game like Jared Goff, and managing games isn't a negative tone, guys. At the end of the day, we saw what he was able to do in getting the Rams to a Super Bowl before, and they just fell short to a good Patriots defense. I definitely think that's enough for these Detroit Lions to win that division and be a contender in the NFC. So with that being said, guys, here are some other teams. Again, a real surprise here in Jacksonville. I don't know. They just have shown a lot lacking on defense, and their offense is just not the level that everybody thought they were going to be. It looked like Jordan Love was going to be the real deal. And first 2 weeks, we just saw that those were bad teams because these past 2 weeks he's been absolutely awful. And yeah, he might not be the guy. Puka Nacua has been an awesome surprise for the Rams. Now they might be getting Cooper Kupp back soon. There's like mixed words if that's going to be in the next 2 weeks or that might still be another 4 weeks. Who really knows? At the end of the day, the Rams have been a nice surprise because this was a team that people were picking to be near the bottom because of the lack of draft picks, because of the older ages, because of the offensive line. And we have seen that offensive line give them trouble. I'm not going to say that. But at the end of the day, I definitely like this surprise. I love the addition of Puka Nacua coming in. He's been awesome to see. He's just he's the next Cooper Kupp. Washington Commanders, they've been quite awesome on the defensive front, like exactly what I talked about in the fantasy football preview at the beginning of the year. But at the end of the day, like what it says here, allow a lot of explosive plays, and then on offense, they can be very lackluster. We saw a couple weeks ago 4 or 5 turnovers. So that's what's a little bit concerning. Here, the Jonathan Taylor drama. We have the New Orleans Saints, Pittsburgh Steelers, Tennessee Titans. So a lot of things going. Tennessee Titans, I don't know what to make of them. Every single year, it's like, oh, they're over and done with. Derrick Henry's finally old. It's over. And then you have a week like this week. I know the Bengals are in bad shape. We just talked about them. At the end of the day, putting up 27-3, holding them to 200 yards total, Derrick Henry looking like his prime self, running, scoring, passing. It just looked like the Titans that always sneak into the playoffs. So I just don't know what to make of the Titans, to be completely honest. Falcons, you need to get rid of Ritter. You've hit the ceiling. It's time to get rid of him. Cincinnati Bengals, like I said, I really think it was a major, major issue not resting this man like Ja'Marr Chase suggested to you guys. I think he knew a lot more than what we knew at that point in time. And it looks like this injury is going to linger, and this season might be a throwaway season for the Bengals. The Giants get an offensive line. Dear God, I understand Daniel. I also agree. Daniel Jones is not the best quarterback. It was a mistake signing him to that contract. It caused that little elongated contract dispute with Saquon Barkley and having the money to be able to sign him to an extension when that is your offense. At the end of the day, it's not Daniel Jones' fault right now. He is running for his life on every single play. It is just sad to see some of the blocking that they have on that team. I mean, blocking your own guys at points is just it's ridiculous to see. Somebody needs to get fired there. It looks terrible. Jets. I know your plan A was was Rodgers. I know Zach Wilson looked competent. I just think it was one of those games that you were being overlooked by the Chiefs, if I'm being completely honest. Um, I know Rodney Harrison had some very poor interviewing skills and talking about Zach Wilson, but at the end of the day, we were all saying exactly what he was saying, except not in that verbiage and except not egging on another player to say it. Zach Wilson is still not that guy. And you could see what the Jets defense can become when they feel and believe that they can win. At the end of the day, it's hard to believe they can win week in and week out when you have Zach Wilson throwing interceptions, when you have Zach Wilson holding onto the ball, when you have him overthrowing receivers that are wide open. And at the end of the day, unless he makes 2 or 3 good plays a game to be able to wake up this defense, I just don't see their defense performing like they did this past week, to be honest. And I definitely do think it was a lot of mental errors on Patrick Mahomes as well, not necessarily the best of coverages. So, yeah, I think the Jets deserve to be here or a little bit lower. Broncos, you look like the same old Broncos. Um, just like the Cowboys, I think you're screwed until you get out of the Russell Wilson contract. Just like the Cowboys are screwed until they get out of the Dak Prescott contract. Panthers, and then Bears, man. Bears, everybody thought they were going to be like a fantasy team to look out for, possibly even contend for the playoffs, just with a high-powered offense. And then it was like, nope, we're not going to let Justin Fields run the ball anymore. We're going to make him second-guess everything. And at the end of the day, let's not make an excuse over Justin Fields also. He can't read defenses. He looks like a second grader reading defenses. And at the end of the day, I feel like he's even limiting himself on what he wants to do in while running. And then makes excuses like a second grader instead of taking ownership for his actions, instead of taking ownership for the team, being the leader he's supposed to be as a quarterback. Instead, blames it on the coaches. Instead, blames it on other people. And now you have wide receivers being left off of rosters because they're cancers. It just sounds like a mess, a dumpster fire in Chicago, having stuff being stolen out of the stadium. It's ridiculous. Chicago is a dumpster fire of a franchise. They're probably going to be number 1 and number 2 picks, so that's something exciting. At the end of the day, it sucks because we probably will never see a good Caleb Williams in the NFL simply because he's playing for the Chicago franchise. So that is where I'm at in football, guys. It's been an up and down season for fantasy. I've had some pretty good. I have one good league where I have Tyreek Hill, of course. We have the numbers that Kirk Cousins putting up on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. I have Tony Pollard in that one as well. It started off really, really well because Calvin Ridley went off in week 1, and then we never saw him again. I had drafted Kamara later in the rounds because of his suspension. Now he's back. I know he only had 13 catches for 33 yards. Then in PPR, 13 catches. I'll take that any week for whatever yards I'm able to get out of him. I know those touchdowns will eventually come. And then Christian Watson was out quite a while. Now he's back as well. He was on a snap count last week. I definitely think he starts getting more into the motion. We know his big playability. So it is a 14-team league. That's why my depth chart is quite limited. At the end of the day, it's a pretty good team in my opinion. I am suffering a little bit where that Calvin Ridley spot is, but I did pick up Palmer, who's taking the place of Mike Williams. So that's a huge boost. And then just playing the waiver wire the rest of the season. As backup running backs, I have Jerome Ford, so that's awesome. Mostert, who's kind of fallen off with the rise of Achane. So that's a little bit of a downfall there as well. In my other big league, RT Sports, for those of you that you know, we have a huge RT Sports league where we do a live in-style auction draft. It's 10 teams per conference. You have 4 conferences, and then you each draft your own players. You drafting at a salary cap. You keep that salary cap throughout the year. So it just means you only have to fill out a lineup. It doesn't mean you have to have a bench. If you want to play the season without a bench and you in those bye weeks, you just suffer the blow or you actually drop players. At the end of the day, you have to stay below that salary, whether it's in trades or whether it's in players. So in that one, I have Tua. And I was a huge Tua believer. It's shown off. It's worked 2 out of the 4 weeks. The other weeks have been very mediocre, including this past week. I have Tua. I just traded for Joe Mixon today. I finally got rid of Ridley. It's not something I wanted to do, but man, I was really suffering at running back. So I have Joe Mixon. I now have Devin Achan. I actually started the year with Jahmyr Gibbs. I had to give up on him as well, unfortunately, and that's why I talked about that a little bit earlier. I have Jamar Chase, just traded for him last week, and that was giving away AJ Brown and Jalen Waddle. So I gave up AJ Brown and Jalen Waddle for Jamar Chase. Um, Unfortunately, AJ Brown went off against me right after I did that. I have Nico Collins, who has turned into a wide receiver one himself. I have the Denver Broncos kicker, New Orleans Saints defense, who has been pretty great except last week. On the bench, I have Miles Sanders now, who came with Jamar Chase in that trade. And then I also have Cooper Kupp, who I'm hoping comes back soon to really boost up my wide receivers and boost up my team overall. It's been a slow start in this one, mostly because of my running backs. I got off to a good start in week one, and then after that, gone downhill. But I'm finally going to play Devin Achan, and then I'm hoping Joe Mixon can kind of finally get that run, and the stupid coaching decisions can really be limited. So that's where I'm at in fantasy, guys. It's been an up and down season, but overall, it's been fun. Love NFL season and love this college football season, guys. I just want to go ahead. I'm not going to update as much on this one. College football, guys, be on the lookout for the Week 5 preview. That will more than likely be released tomorrow night, Wednesday night, if not first thing Saturday morning, guys. It just depends how long we take on the Horns 2020 podcast. We usually record on Wednesday nights. So if we take a little bit too long and I have some homework to do, we'll go ahead and record that for Saturday morning for that to be ready, as well as our UFC preview. And then hockey season, the only announcement I want to make, guys, is now that I'm in Denver, Colorado Avalanche are the favorites to win this year's hockey season. They're the favorites at the end of the day to raise that Stanley Cup. That's something exciting. Hopefully we can go catch a few games while we're out here. So that's something exciting to hear and see. And they'll be kicking off their season a week from today. I think it's October 10th is the first 3 games of the season. So that's awesome that hockey's also underway. As well, another sport that's starting up, college basketball scrimmages are well underway. And that's Champions Invitation or whatever it is to kick off the season, where it's usually like 4 of the top 10 teams or top 15 teams that are facing off against one another are playing in November, but college basketball scrimmages are starting up this month. So that's something excited. We know we love college basketball. Got to attend the Final Four last year. Texas basketball looks for another prime run into the tournament. I'm not sure where we have Final Four written on us. I have a lot of, and my best friends know this, I have a lot of worries about our coaching staff and their decision making. But at the end of the day, I hope it's a great season and hopefully they prove me wrong. And then the Ryder Cup recap, guys. So I'm saving this one from this past weekend. I personally bet. I wasn't that mad. I personally bet on the European team simply because going into it, guys, the U.S., I mean, supposedly being motivated to go win overseas, which they haven't done in I don't know how many years now, and how many attempts, they were very nonchalant about it. Not even all flying together, not practice. Some of them not even doing practice rounds. Very questionable decision makings with like the Justin Thomas one, which actually worked out because Justin Thomas was probably the best, if not the second best, behind Max Homa for the USA team. There was just questionable decision making. I hated Zach Johnson as a coach. He wins 2 big tournaments throughout his career, and he's somehow the captain for the Ryder Cup for the U.S. It was unfortunate his incompetency showed in his after the day 1 interview, and then where he's talking about, I've seen excellent golf, and I'm just expecting to see that when they got swept 3-0 in the morning. I don't know what golf you were watching. It was an absolute just domination for the European team from beginning to end, in terms of fire, in terms of shot making, in terms of putt making, reading greens, just working as a team. Not even making the adjustments necessary during the tournament. And again, talking about incompetency and just being run over by the rest of the players, it seemed like. You had Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth struggle because Jordan Spieth couldn't hit a shot. And instead of giving Justin Thomas some help or putting Jordan Spieth with somebody else, or maybe even sitting Jordan Spieth down, they said, no, that's going to be the first team that you're sending out on the next day again. And they get absolutely dominated again. Why? Because Jordan Spieth sucked again. It was unbelievable to keep watching the same mistakes, watch the same pairs, while European was like, yeah, we'll put our same pairs. Why? Because we're absolutely dominating with these pairs. You had Fleetwood Mac and McIlroy and Tommy Fleetwood. You had Hovland. You pair up Hovland with anybody at this point in time, he was doing good. Rom was absolutely dominant. Sepp Straka and Boyard did awesome. It was just an absolute complete domination from the Ryder Cup team out in Europe. Personally, I'm excited for what's coming in 2 years. It's going to be at Bethpage Black in New York. Me, Dom, and AJ have been talking about it. I think it's a non-negotiable bucket list item that we attend. I'm excited to go, guys. I haven't been to like a PGA tournament or anything like that, so that's also on the bucket list. But the environment at a Ryder Cup, if you guys have never seen it, it is absolutely electric. Every putt, every chip. I mean, if you have a hole out, it is loud as can be. It's awesome, guys. It brings out the best of golf, which I wish golf was like that on a weekly basis. It's just fiery competition, a little bit more talking, a little bit more chattering, and more competitive nature, to be completely honest. And it's something that attracts people to the sport. So it's awesome to see the Ryder Cup every 2 years. I know it was a crappy performance from the U.S. Supposedly they had something going on and never really was revealed. At least not something that I saw was revealed. But then the huge shout out to the European team. It was awesome to see the performance that they put on. Hovland looks like he's the best in the world right now, to be completely honest with you guys. Rom showed that he is top 3 in the world. And the rest of the European team, I mean, they had a lot of young guys coming up through their ranks and showing out, to be honest. And they completely dominated the U.S. team. So hats off to the European team. Won me some money, as well as dominated the U.S., who I felt deserved that domination. So with that being said, guys, that is the world of sports. That was a little bit longer than what I was expecting, and I think it's because I broke down the bracket. I promise you guys it won't be that long, and I'll do a better job of writing down some notes for myself, with talking points for each of these sections that we go over, whether it's MLB, NBA, things of that nature. But I do want to do this segment on a weekly basis. It's something fun for me to be able to recap the week, talk about news stories, and hopefully you guys put stuff in the comments. If somebody wants to go ahead and collab and do these videos together, happy to do so as well, guys. Again, this is just a hobby for me. Be able to talk sports, be able to talk every type of sport, and be able to put out some content for you guys. All right, guys. So thank you guys very much for supporting the channel. I know we're still growing. I know we don't have much of a following. I know I also need to be more consistent than when I've been. At the end of the day, I'm very happy, very grateful for the support I've been receiving. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, guys. I promise you it's going to get better. This is the first time out of many to come. Again, we'll have talking points. We'll definitely cut this down on shorter time. We're still under an hour. At the end of the day, we want to make this a shorter time for everybody. Okay, guys? So with that being said, guys, look out for our college football preview. Go listen to the Horns 2020 podcast. We have the Red River Rivalry Showdown this week, the last time in the Big 12. So huge college football weekend. And then we have UFC was back after a week's break. And of course, we have all these up and coming all these upcoming sports that are getting ready to launch. So a lot of sports coming our way, guys. A lot of content coming out your guys' way as well. So follow up with the bets on a weekly basis. Please comment, please like, retweet, share, subscribe to the YouTube. I appreciate all of the support, guys. I just want to grow the channel. I want to collaborate with some of you guys out here in the community. And just again, thank you guys very much for all of the support. So have a good Tuesday night. Have a good rest of your week. And we'll see you for the college football preview, guys. Have a good one.